What's up, everybody? Welcome to another offseason edition of the Mile High Hockey Podcast. Drew Spivak, Will Peterson with you today. And Drew, interesting week for the Avalanche. We got the schedule on Wednesday. Got a lot to talk about with the schedule, but also what else the Avalanche need to do this summer, some Martin Necas rumors, my take on why it's important to go to the number one seed. We'll get into all of it today. Let's start with that schedule, though. Hey, it's not football. We're not going to break it down game by game, but what was your general reaction to seeing an NHL schedule with an Olympic break of 20 days, NHL players playing in the Olympics for the first time in 12 years?
I think that's the thing that gets me most excited is the Olympic break, getting to play for the first time since 2014. We got a little taste of it with the Four Nations last year, just with the four teams playing. I cannot wait to watch these guys playing Olympic hockey again. But as far as just the Avalanche schedule goes, I think a couple of things that stood out to me were, number one, I love the fact that you're kind of opening with some good teams right out of the gate. You got LA, you got Utah, then you got Dallas, all in that first week of the season. Utah's going to be a team that's going to be competing for a playoff spot this year. Obviously, the Kings were a playoff team last year. Dallas, we all know what that means. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But I think the big thing that stood out for me was what happens after the Olympic break, because you get done, mid-February, basically taking almost the entire month of February off. You come back, the Avs are going to have 27 games in 50 days.
Wow, it's a lot.
That's an incredible stretch that they're going to be going with to try and earn a playoff spot. So, what does this team look like once we get to that point? Is it going to be similar to last year where you're going to see several moves in, with that March trade deadline? Plus, you got to figure, I think the March trade deadline this year it's March 6th. So you get back from that break, you're going to have a quick stretch where you might see a lot of deals going, kind of like last year with the Four Nations face-off, where you're going to see a lot of trades in a short amount of time. But that, to me, was kind of the big thing that stood out, was the 27 games in 50 days. That's going to be a really tough stretch for the Avs to kind of get through to get to the playoffs.
Well, and you look at it, some of their roster will be off its feet, kind of third, fourth line guys. But the top six, other than Valerian and Chushkin, probably be playing in the Olympics. We know Nathan McKinnon will, Cale Makar, Devon Tays is going to be there. We assume Brock Nelson, Team USA, Gabriel Landeskog with Sweden, Marty Necas will be over there. There are going to be a lot of guys that are thinking, woohoo, 20 days off, but your best players are going to play an 82-game season, along with the fact that this isn't just some exhibition. They're pursuing a gold medal, a once-in-a-lifetime type chance for the majority of these guys.
And it's kind of goes back to what we talked about, I think, when we were talking about the Four Nations last year. It's the worry about injuries, especially with these guys, because you mentioned it. 5 of the top 6 are playing in this tournament. Your top 2 defensemen are playing in this tournament. You're going to have possibly Mackenzie Blackwood playing in this tournament. So a lot of key guys are going to be playing in this thing. There's always that worry for me for injury, even though I love seeing all these guys playing in this thing. There's always that worry for injury for me, but it'll be a nice little break.
And just fatigue
exactly.
In general, because you mentioned 27 games, 50 days. Well, a gold medal is a big deal. It's not as big a deal as the Stanley Cup, but it's a big deal. They're going to be playing really hard and then have to get right back into a wild NHL schedule.
Well, you can kind of assume that, Canada's going to be there at the end. The United States will be there at the end. Sweden might be there at the end for Gabe. How much does Gabe play in this tournament, given everything that's gone on with him the last 3 years? It's going to be kind of a fascinating thing to watch. But I think the fatigue thing is a significant factor, because you're talking group play. You're probably going to play 4 games in the group play, 5 games in the group play, and then you're going to go on to the knockout round. So there's going to be a lot of hockey played over that 2.5-week stretch in February. So fatigue definitely could become a factor for him.
So with the schedule, a couple other notes. They have 18 matinee games. That's a record for the Avalanche. Hey, I love it when it's at Ball Arena. You can take your kids, nieces, nephews. A lot easier to go to a Saturday 1 o'clock game than it is to go to an 8 o'clock game on a Tuesday. And then also they have a 7-game homestand in January before the Olympics. It'll be their longest homestand in 5 years. But I looked at this schedule, wrote about this at denversports.com, and said, Drew, the Avalanche can't treat this as another 82-game slog. Last year, you went into an unfortunate matchup with Dallas because you screwed around out of the gates. The Avalanche were not a very good team in the first 20, 25 games of the season. It ultimately made them the 3 seed in the Central Division. I know we've gone back and forth a lot on this podcast with you and I, me and Mike Evans, but I'm more of a believer now more than ever that I don't care if it's cursed. Go for the President's Trophy. Go for the 1 seed. What happened when you won the Cup in 2022? Every series started at Ball Arena. I want to see the Avalanche somewhere around 115 to 120 points, 1 seed in the Western Conference, make Winnipeg and Dallas play in that 2-3, and hopefully get, kind of a laugher in the first round. That's what they got in 22. They swept the Predators, no problem. I want to see a wild card team ease them into the playoffs, Game 7 last year spiraled out of control. Well, why did it spiral? In a sense, because when the Stars made it 2-1, the building exploded and the Avs kind of fell apart. That wouldn't have happened if it was here in Denver. I'm admitting I'm changing my stance on this a little, but I actually do think the Avalanche being aggressive in terms of points in the regular season is important this year.
I think I'm with you. I really do think I'm with you on that, because you mentioned having that home ice in every round of the playoffs. It does matter. I mean, I know hockey's kind of changed a little bit to where home ice may not matter as much as it used to, but I still think we saw in that Dallas series, it mattered. It mattered a ton. So I think I'm with you. I want to see them get off to a better start this year. I can't get off to a much worse start than you did last year, starting out 0-4. But I'm curious how it kind of plays out with the roster, because if you look at the roster where it is right now, you're probably looking at maybe not necessarily a slow start, but kind of a feeling out type process that, we're going to have to wait and see, instead of them just coming out guns blazing. I think as long as this team is healthy, I fully expect them to come out hot. I fully expect them to come out and try to push for a President's Trophy. I don't care about the curse. I know people talk about it all the time. Yeah. The curse is kind of just whatever to me. It's there, but I want to see them be the best team in the league, because I think if you look at this roster the way it's constructed, the top six, the defensive core set, the goaltending is set, this is a roster that should very well be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league going into next season. And they got to act like it, because you do want to play Dallas home. You want to play Winnipeg at home. St. Louis is going to be good. Minnesota is going to be good. Utah is going to be good. So you're going to have just challenges within your own division that are going to make it more of a challenge this year. So get off to a good start and shoot for 110, 115, 120 points this year.
Since the last time we were with you, there's been some news. Brent Burns, a 40-year-old defenseman, former Norris Trophy winner, that's a mouthful, has signed with the Avalanche. They re-upped Josh Manson. We thought he was a trade candidate. Doesn't look like he's going to get traded anymore. And in fact, they're giving him less money, $3.9 million, not starting this season. He'll get his $4.5, but in the next 2 seasons once the cap's going up. So curious your thoughts on those 2 deals, as well as, let's be honest, the Marty Necas situation is just kind of hanging over the Avalanche right now in terms of, you don't want it to be Mikko Rantanen 2.0. He's in the last year of his deal. You either need to extend him or you probably need to trade him. My argument, though, would be if you're going to trade him, just trade him now, because we heard all about chemistry and they couldn't quite build it. Well, if you trade him now, then you can build that chemistry. If this bleeds into January, February, early March, then you're in the same boat you were a year ago. So a lot to unpack there, but Burns, Manson, Necas, where do you check in on those 3 names?
I'll start with the defensive side of things first. I loved the signing of Brent Burns. The fact that you got this guy for $1 million plus incentives, I mean, that's a steal. You could throw him in. He could be a second-pairing defenseman. He could be a third-pairing defenseman, kind of wherever you need to put him to make things work. I love the fit. Obviously, this guy is known for his offense. He's going to be an offensive-minded defenseman. He's going to be on the power play. Defensively, it's going to be a struggle. But is it going to be any worse than what you would have with Keaton Middleton in there?
Nope.
Or somebody else?
Nope.
So you just kind of take it for what it is. Sam Malinsky's taken kind of a step forward that you can trust him on that back end, and you can pair him with Brent Burns, and I think you're going to be fine. So I actually love the look of this defensive core. The Manson thing was a little curious to me. I like Josh Manson a lot. I thought he was one of their, 2, 3 best players in the playoffs this season. I don't quite understand the need to extend him now, especially for somebody who's so injury prone. To me, it didn't make a ton of sense, but at least you're getting him at a little bit of a discount. In a way, see, obviously they love the player that he is, the physicality that he brings, the kind of the offensive punch that he can provide, in stretches. I think it's a good move. But then you get to the Necas thing. That thing is going to be interesting to watch for me, because, like you said, you can't go into the season with another Mikko Rantanen situation. You've got to have some clarity, in my opinion, one way or the other. Either you got to lock him up, which we're hearing rumors. I think it was Nick Kyprios up in Canada was talking about he may be wanting $10 million plus a year.
Seems like a lot. Seems like an awful lot for that player.
And I'm not willing to spend $10 million on Marty Necas when, to me, I still think there's a lot of questions about what he is as a player and kind of where he fits in, and can he be that guy that can provide a boost in the playoffs? Because regular season, Marty, pretty darn good. I think we know what we're going to get from him. But what happens in the playoffs? And with this team, it's all about the playoffs.
Correct.
Can he be a player in the playoffs? If you're going to be paying a guy $10 million plus a year, you got to produce in the playoffs. And he hasn't shown that he's done it so far. I mean, I look at some of these other guys he's being compared to, money-wise. You're talking about, Jeff Skinner, Vladimir Tarasenko. I've seen Mark Stone. Is he those players? I mean, Skinner maybe, but Vladimir Tarasenko in his prime, I don't think Marty Necas is that. Now, if he comes out and can get a 100-point season, okay, maybe, but that's a big if. I don't like the fact of going into this season without knowing what the future holds for Marty Netjes.
He's either extended or traded is how
it's gotta be.
I look at it at this point, because the Mikko thing, it didn't work last year, and it kind of derailed the season in some senses, because it just, you remember the reactions of everyone when he got traded. They were stunned. Now, they wouldn't be as stunned for a guy like Natchez. He doesn't have the history here, but it's just, if Chris McFarland is going to roll into the season without either an extension or having traded him, then it feels like maybe he hasn't learned from some of the things that didn't go right when this time, or when this situation came around last year. Let's talk about gut on Natchez. We had that report, remember, that I wasn't overly thrilled with his time in Colorado. Feels to me, Drew, like you look at the third and fourth lines right now, they're fine, but the fourth line to me looks like an Eagles top line or second line. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole depth thing, that you needed to trade Mikko for more depth, maybe you trade Marty Natchez for a couple more pieces, really fill out the back end of your roster. If we're doing predictions, my gut is he gets traded between the now and the start of the season. How about you?
I think they're probably going to end up going into the season with him, because I think the way you're going to fill out the back end of this roster is, because you really only have 2 spots available, and it's really your third line technically, because Kelly and Drury and who's the missing piece that I'm missing?
Ross Colton?
Ross Colton's your third line center.
In theory, is he really a center?
Sure.
I mean,
well,
I see what you're saying.
That's a good point.
I think the problem is like right now the fourth line is projecting as the third line.
Right.
And we'd rather the fourth line be the fourth line and the third line get maybe a real center with Colton on one wing and someone else on the other.
Correct, yeah, because right now your fourth line is probably Prishapov, Ivan, and, TJ Tynan, something like that, which in theory, like you said, should be the top line for the Colorado Eagles. But I think what'll probably end up ultimately happening is that they'll bring back Joel Kiviranta on a super cheap deal, which I'm totally fine with. I love what he brought to the table last year. Then you could go get, just kind of a fill-in guy from the third line. I think I saw a story yesterday where Columbus has a guy available, Chekhovov or something like that, a Russian guy that's kind of wanting out of Columbus. He'd be a perfect guy and a perfect trade fit for this team. We all know that the Avalanche and the Blue Jackets do deals together all the time.
Love doing business, yeah.
Exactly. So he would be a perfect option coming on that third line. I don't see Netchez getting traded for anybody that's kind of a big name player, because I think Netchez would bring back a big return. It would have to be another top 6 guy, but my gut ultimately tells me he probably does start the season with the Avalanche with no contract, even though I think that's probably an idea that I don't want to go with. I want to see a resolution before we get to camp. Either you trade him or you got him re-signed one way or the other.
You can use the word. It would be a mistake.
I think
it would be a mistake.
I think it absolutely would.
I think the uncertainty would be a mistake. So there you have it. I mean, between the schedule, Josh Manson, Brent Burns, and this lingering Marty Natchez situation, there actually is Avalanche stuff going on.
Yeah.
Wish we could sit here and talk about Sidney Crosby. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole again, because it sounds like that's not going to happen.
But it still doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
They're still thinking the Avalanche out there teasing people, by the way. Did you see that post last week where they had the picture with Justin Bieber and McKinnon and Crosby? And it's like...
So I got some clarity on that.
Okay.
Now, you shouldn't have included Sid, but Biebs had released the new album.
Right.
So I got some clarity that from someone who works for the Avs, hey, the post was just about Bieber's new album. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I get it, but you also knew what you were doing. Why not just crop Sidney out and make it Nathan and Justin? So
exactly.
Yeah, they're kind of teasing us. But also people got to remember, the person running the Avs social media isn't talking to Chris McFarland every day about trades.
Are you sure? No, we know that's not true.
Yes.
I thought it was kind of funny. It's like, we know Bieber's got a new album coming out, but why put Sid in there? Why feed into the whole frenzy? I mean,
pour a little gasoline on that
exactly.
fire.
Don't do it. But this thing's never going to go away until Sid, decides he's going to, stay with the Penguins for the rest of his career. This thing's never ever going away. But it's fun to speculate. It's fun to have fun with. But does it ever really happen? I think I told you this the last time we did a show. I do think at some point in time, Sidney Crosby is going to be a member of the Colorado Avalanche. It's just a matter of when.
Well, I think we ended the show by saying root against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
Because the worse they are, maybe the more likely it is Sidney Crosby gets moved. But we'll be back when there's news. Not sure when that will be. Could be Monday if they do something big. Could be 3 weeks from now. So we will see. But as always, appreciate you tuning in to Mile High Hockey, and we will catch you next time. Down.